Alexandra Wilkes, we'll call her Alex from here on out, is the Senior Vice President of America Rising. And we've been having these long conversations just to get you up to speed, Alex. It is fascinating what the Democrats are up against in that they did what they had to do in terms of identity politics at the district level to get control of the House. But somewhere along the line, they lost control of their party. So now you've got, we're all waiting.
And lost control of their mind.
Well, yeah. And so everybody, sound mind establishment Democrats are saying, we got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the face and voice of our party. We have the Clinton faction and the Obama faction. It seems like the Clinton operatives are all with Kamala Harris, but she's on board with everything far left, like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Ocasio-Cortez. So now all the attention turns to Biden, and it's got to be Biden or Michelle, and getting into the race late. And now we even get word that Hillary's watching, and if it stays this far left and Biden doesn't get in the race, she's getting in. Let me give you one more, and then I'll just turn you loose. I guess at some point we'll have to wonder, well, where does the Clinton minds and operatives and money go? Where does the Obamas weigh in? You would think it'd be Kamala, but it's not because the Clintons are there and they hate the Clintons. So is it going to be Cory Booker? They're not that reckless. It's either going to be old Joe or Michelle herself. There's a lot of drama still to come with the Dems in 2020.
Absolutely. It's really a treat for us to watch as opposition researchers because we've been sort of observing these characters for a long time now, really since the 2016 elections wrapped up. And now they're starting to go after each other, which is just, complete fun for us.
Well, can I tell you what they don't get? They don't get the Justice Democrat movement that went out and found AOC and others. Yes. They're not at war. They're not thinking that Congress is the focus in a year in this next election, expanding House control, getting control of the Senate, and they're not even targeting Republicans. So mainstream Democrats are obsessed with getting Trump out of office. Hollywood and the mainstream media is obsessed with getting Trump out of office. The grass tops billionaires, the Soroses, the Facebooks, and all of them, they're obsessed with Trump. But the Justice Democrats are obsessed with targeting mainstream Democrats because they're at war with their own party, and their plan is to take over the party, then get rid of the Electoral College and take over the country. And I don't even think they see that yet.
Well, that's, what makes 2020 so different from 2016 is that in 2016, you had Hillary Clinton really muscle for control of the party and the donors ahead of her run and actually ended up pushing someone like Joe Biden out of the race. Now, and then if you'll, of course, remember, Bernie came at her from the left and was able to be competitive with her because he was able to marshal the support of so many small dollar donors. Now, though, the Democratic donor base and the primary base looks a lot different. You don't have that base and those donors in lockstep behind one candidate anymore. And I think that that's a real challenge for them because, if they are going to take on President Trump, as we know, it's very difficult to unseat an incumbent historically. Sure. But if they're going to take on President Trump, they need to have a unified message and one that is not just simply, we don't like Trump, but rather we have an alternative. And, as a further and further that these characters move to the left, not just in terms of the anti-Trump rhetoric when it comes to impeachment and all that kind of stuff, but when they are talking about Medicare for all, they're talking about the Green New Deal, these are plans that are just too extreme for mainstream Americans. And so they're setting themselves up, I think, for failure in just a couple of months.
Well, how would you, let's pretend, and I don't like when they do this towards us on MSNBC and CNN, but this is fascinating what they're up against, and I'm able to put my partisan hat aside and say this is just fascinating politics. This is, to me, the most impossible situation of getting a party to unite that I have ever witnessed, and they got 12 months to do it before Iowa. What would that be? It was hope and change. America great again. What are they going to do? Make the government big again? Their policies are what are hanging them. What could they possibly, what narrative, slogan, war cry, or theme could they possibly latch on to that could get traction? I can't think of one.
they're operating under the delusion that this new progressive agenda that they're embracing is supported by Americans. And the reason why they sort of think that is that if you just sort of poll superficially on some of these issues, like Medicare for All, for example, it actually does pretty well. But the catch is that the people that they're polling don't realize that that means that it's the end of private insurance. That, like, if it was,
no, and if you aid them
under Obamacare, you didn't get to keep your doctor, and
right.
you planned if you liked it. Now you really don't get to.
Right, and when the question adds that, the numbers change dramatically.
Yes, and so when you add that element to it, they say, "Wait a second, like, what is this? Like, I didn't sign up for this." And so I think that that's where the Democrats are headed, because they sort of falsely believe that Americans are in support of these policies, when in fact, you talk to them about the Green New Deal, and in theory, everyone, can get behind the idea of conservation and leaving the earth as a better place for our children. But then you say we're going to ban commercial airline travel and cows and whatever it is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking about these days, and they say, hang on, like, I'm all for doing my part, but why am I going to, spend what some estimates are saying is $93 trillion to make this happen? Like, if you tax
her response, by the way, is, well, if you don't like it, come up with something better, or and that nobody's
right.
done anything for 30 years. No, people have done sensible things. Look, this is, first of all, an overreaction to one degree that is corrected, and we're in cooling. I mean, that's relevant to people. Nobody wants to trash the earth, but nobody's ready to knock down every building, ground every plane, give up our car keys, and kill every cow. And then ultimately, we'll still be farting and exhaling. I guess they're coming after us next. And now we're getting the veganism from Cory Booker. We're getting AOC with the $93 trillion. And there have others that have alluded to, well, maybe you shouldn't have so many kids. I mean, this ain't going to play very well. I mean, but isn't the point, Alex, that the American people are a lot more policy-oriented than these political hacks give them credit for?
Yeah, and look, I think when you tell the American people that the Democratic Party of 2019 stands for not procreating anymore, they're going to say, hang on, this isn't like the party of my grandfather. These are people are crazy. And so, I agree with you. I think that they don't really have a policy-based future ahead of them that's viable in terms of support with Americans in the general election. And it's going to be a real challenge for them.
Alex Wilkes is the Senior Vice President of America Rising. Closing moments. Who is the front runner right now? And I think all of these socialist early five candidates, I think of them, Kamala Harris is the front runner. I think we're all waiting on the Obamas and the Clintons to chime in. Will the Clintons stay behind Kamala or run Hillary? Will Obama jump in with Biden or Michelle? I actually think whoever's going to get this nomination is waiting to come as a, white and shining armored horse. Is not in the race yet, is what I'm saying. Sure.
I mean, look, I'm reluctant to pick just one name that I think is the front runner, because everything just changes on the drop of a hat, especially at the stage in the race. But I would say someone to watch out for, given her performance during the Kavanaugh hearings, is someone like Kamala Harris. If you'll remember, that was a hearing where everyone was sort of angling for their moment in the spotlight, and certainly she had some flubs that were notable. But I would say stylistically, she came across as very cool and very calm and collected. If you kind of put that in contrast to someone like Cory Booker, who was flailing his arms about and calling himself Spartacus, she seems to have a much cooler demeanor.
She could grow into the role and pass the interview kind of a thing.
Presidential test. Yeah. So I would say to look out for her.
Is Hillary done? I mean, I think Hillary has to run for president as Kamala Harris. I think that's her only play. I do think
America Rising wrote a 5,000-page research book on Hillary Clinton. So should she decide to run again, we are more than ready to take her on.
What about Biden? Is Biden the steel sword everybody thinks he is, the grown-up in the room that could take the party from socialism back to mainstream, marketable, democratic opposition? Is he everything that he seems to be on paper? Because I find them so divided. All the young whites are kind of... Bernie doesn't realize this isn't the same country he ran for president for 3 years ago, but he'll have some... hipsters and young white college kids. But a lot of them have moved on, and they've moved on to Kamala. They've moved on to Elizabeth Warren. That's a very divided, crowded field. What the lane that is still wide open is old guard establishment, in the middle Democrat, and maybe a papa figure like Joe.
Sure. I mean, look, Biden is someone who definitely is not the same character as the other candidates who are running. But his moment really might have passed because the Democratic primary electorate looks so different and, prizes much different ideals than the ones that he espoused. So we'll have to see.
Would you say it the same way I would, Alex, that he would probably be the best general opponent for Trump, but we can't see a pathway for him to get the nomination because their party is far more socialist than they realize?
Arguably, I would say that he's the most centrist out of all the Democrats, but it's just difficult to see him getting through a Democratic primary.
Great visiting with you, and look forward to talking to you. I guess we got a year of this fun, and then the Cohen hearings coming up later this week. But Alex Wilkes is the Senior Vice President of America Rising, and joining us this morning on the Dems. We thought it would be close to 30. It may end up being more like 12 to 14, and I think we better keep our eye on who the late ones coming in. They may have the best chance. Appreciate you joining us, Alex. Have a great week.